You are invited to participate in a true multimedia experience coming to a home near you. LCM TV is bringing Lake County into the new millennium with news, live broadcast, information, music, talk shows, and local programming, all streaming in high definition online and soon to be on your Roku box. Join us at lcm-tv.com or be a part of our studio audience. You can also watch the shows at lakecomagazine.com as we provide programming to inform, enlighten, and maybe even enrage you. On Lake County Magazine Talk Show with Terry and Pete the Tax Guy, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Like racing? Try the Checkered Flag Show, hosted by Ace Naylor on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. All ages and divisions in regional and national fields. Joni Lane brings a positive light to you every Monday at 3 p.m. Pasha Space brings an international flair as they discuss ecological, health, and social issues in Haiti with people around the world. End up your week with positive, conscious sounds on Saturday at 9 a.m. with Sister T on the Bridge. This show is also simulcast on KMEC 105.1 FM in Ukiah. Our latest show, LCM TV News, is brought to you live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, and rebroadcast at 6:30 p.m. and noon daily, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, featuring national, regional, and local news, weather, and sports. We have it all here for you on your local TV station, LCM TV. Join us online and soon on Roku, giving you access to all the best Lake County has to offer. We are LCMTV.com, your multimedia connection. Tune in for the fun. It's live TV at its best.
Good afternoon. Welcome to LCM TV News at Noon. We're not your normal news. I'm Pete Schiffman.
I'm Megan Berger.
Welcome today. The Obama administration revealed yesterday that 21.5 million people were swept up in a colossal breach of government computer systems, far more damaging than initially thought, resulting in the theft of a vast amount of personal information, including social security numbers and some fingerprints. Every person given a government background check for the last 15 years was probably affected. The agency said hackers stole sensitive information, including addresses, health and financial history, and other private details, from 19.7 million people who had been subjected to a government background check, as well as 1.8 million others, including their spouses and friends. The theft was separate from, but related to a breach revealed last month that compromised the personal data of 4.2 million federal employees. Both attacks are believed to have originated in China, although senior administration officials declined to pinpoint a perpetrator, except to say they had indications that the same actor carried out the two hacks. The breaches constitute what is apparently the largest cyber attack on the systems of the U.S. government, exposing the technological vulnerabilities of federal agencies that handle sensitive information. They also seem certain to intensify debate in Washington over what the government must do to address the substantial weaknesses in cybersecurity, long the subject of dire warnings, but seldom acted upon by agencies, Congress, or the White House. Catherine Archuleta, the Director of Office of Personnel Management, announced new security measures that would be installed at the agency, as well as free credit and identity theft monitoring for the victims of the breach. In an update on that story, Ms. Archuleta did resign this morning due to the hacking of her systems. And on a note of that is, with all the people we have in Silicon Valley, why isn't the U.S. government utilizing that personnel?
Opinion.
I'm allowed.
FBI Director James Comey said Thursday that the agency believes it stopped potential acts of violence in the month before the July 4th holiday. Comey said that authorities suspect some of the more than 10 people arrested during that time were planning to commit violence tied to the holiday, but he declined during a wide-ranging discussion with reporters to describe any of the potential plots that may have been thwarted or to identify specific individuals the FBI thought might carry out an attack. Federal agents had ramped up efforts in recent months to arrest Islamic State sympathizers across the country, arresting more than 10 in the last 4 weeks in places including New Jersey, Ohio, and North Carolina. Comey said he believed that his work disrupted efforts to kill people, likely in connection with July 4th. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security had warned of a heightened terror threat tied to the July 4th weekend. but had not publicly identified any specific plot they were tracking. Comey also said the current crop of Westerners attracted by the Islamic State's messaging is so unpredictable that it can be hard for federal authorities to ever be sure of their plans or when they might act. Whereas al-Qaeda would train operatives and carefully scope out targets, the concern among law enforcement officials is that the Islamic State is motivating people to commit violence on a very short string. Comey said that some of the people who had been arrested in the last month have been communicating on encrypted platforms, a concern he discussed before Congress on Wednesday, but he acknowledged that in these particular cases, agents were able to use other investigative methods.
The Securities and Exchange Commission is waiting for a full report from the New York Stock Exchange and parent company Intercontinental Exchange to learn exactly what shut down trading for over 3 hours on Wednesday. The report may shape future market regulation and may determine if the New York Stock Exchange will be hit with a financial penalty. Sources familiar with the situation said that while New York Stock Exchange President Tom Farley and ICE CEO Jeffrey Sprecher were in contact with SEC officials and Chair Mary Jo White throughout the outage, a full post-mortem will provide a clearer picture. The SEC is not only looking at the cause of the snafu, but also how decisions by exchange executives were made. These details may be used by regulators to determine if the current regulatory structure of U.S. markets is adequate or if improvements need to be made. Although sources added it's too soon in the process to speculate on a financial penalty, the SEC has a consistent track record for finding exchanges for disruptions.
As the Chinese stock market slumps, the country's government has stepped in boldly, unveiling a series of measures to prop up shares. But those efforts have done little to stabilize the market, with stocks continuing to slide on Wednesday. The losses create a political and economic challenge for the nation's leadership. Beijing could face social unrest if the sell-off accelerates, since tens of millions of ordinary investors have plowed their savings into the market. The psychological toll on investors, in turn, could erode consumer confidence, dragging down growth in the already slowing economy. The Chinese government is moving swiftly to prevent any broader fallout. Despite the latest batch of moves, China's markets were battered on Wednesday. In Shanghai, prices plunged to 5.9%. In Shenzhen, they fell 2.5%. The damage is also spreading regionally to Hong Kong and Japan, where shares also fell sharply.
South Carolina, the first state to secede from the Union, dispatched with a lasting symbol of the Civil War on Thursday as Governor Nikki Haley signed a law removing the Confederate battle flag from the grounds of the State House. The flag, which flies in front of the graceful 19th century Capitol building here, is set to come down at 10 p.m. this morning. Haley, a Republican, signed the bill in a Capitol building where the night before, members of the House of Representatives had engaged in a 13-hour legislative argument over the flag, which was introduced on Capitol grounds by white lawmakers in the early 1960s at the height of anti-integration sentiment. The flag first flew over the State House dome in 1961 to mark the 100th anniversary of the Civil War and was kept there as a symbol of official opposition to the civil rights movement. Mass protests decades later led to a compromise in 2000 with lawmakers who insisted that the flag symbolized Southern heritage and state rights.
The U.S. Army unveiled a controversial plan yesterday to reduce its force size by 40,000 soldiers, the latest downsizing of the U.S. military blamed on budget cutbacks. Though military officials say their hands are tied by funding levels, lawmakers decried the reductions as a security threat. The new cuts will shrink the Army to its smallest size since September 11th. On top of the Army reduction, the Navy may have to pull its aircraft carrier from the Persian Gulf for the first time since 9/11. In a statement yesterday, the Army revealed the timeline and specifics for the troop cuts, which along with other changes would shrink units at the Fort Benning, Georgia, and Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. According to the statement, the 40,000 troop reduction will be completed by the end of the fiscal year 2018 and will be accompanied by the reduction of the 17,000 Department of the Army civilian employees. These cuts will impact nearly every Army installation, both in the continental U.S. and overseas. Senator John McCain, a Republican out of Arizona, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, said yesterday that Army and Marine Corps and strength is dropping dangerously low. The Air Force is the oldest and smallest it's ever been. The Navy's fleet is shrinking to pre-war World War I levels. And at a Pentagon briefing, Army Brigadier General Randy George, Director of Force Management, said a total of 28 Army installations will see reductions due to the latest announcement.
From environmental and workforce regulations to health care and contraception, congressional Republicans are using spending bills to try to dismantle President Obama's policies, actions that could lead to a government shutdown. The House and Senate Appropriations Committees are churning out annual spending bills, dropping the bipartisanship that has long characterized the committee. The bills adhere to strict overall spending limits imposed in 2011 that Mr. Obama had already said he would not accept. But beyond spending cuts, the bills collectively represent a firm reassertion of power by the Republican-controlled Congress. In the House, one bill prohibits any federal money from being spent on the Affordable Care Act. Funds from the enforcement of new labor rules would be drastically reduced. The main federal family planning program, Title X, would be eliminated. The administration's efforts to impose strict rules on for-profit universities would be reversed, as would new rules requiring retirement investment advisors to prove they have no financial conflicts of interest. Another bill, now on the House floor, to finance the Interior Department and the Environmental Protection Agency, would stop regulation of hydraulic fracturing or fracking, prohibit implementation of carbon emission standards for electric power plants, block new clean water rules, and stop the government's marine and coastal planning efforts to respond to climate change. Other bills would block the Food and Drug Administration from reviewing e-cigarette marketing and keep the Federal Communications Commission from carrying out net neutrality, regulation of the Internet. A conscious rider would let employers in the District of Columbia refuse health insurance coverage for any service on moral grounds and hire and fire based on women's use of health services. The White House has vowed to veto each of the dozen spending bills in the works, and Senate Democrats have pledged to filibuster before they can even reach the president. Two changes have combined to make this budget season particularly contentious. The first is Republican control of Congress. Senator Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, said the appropriations process would wait for Republicans to block new White House efforts and roll back old ones. The other change is budgetary. After a proactive fight over raising the government's statutory borrowing limit, Congress and President Obama agreed in 2011 to restrict spending limits for domestic and defensive programs that would last a decade, absent a larger budget deal that overhauled the federal tax code and entitlement programs like Medicare. In the face of those limits, Representative Paul Ryan, Republican of Wisconsin, and Senator Patty Murray, Democrat of Washington, negotiated a 2-year budget deal to lift the caps. President Obama is in the Oval Office.
Where did that come from?
I'm not sure. Sorry about that, folks.
The Food and Drug Administration said yesterday it will push back the deadline for chain restaurants, grocery stores, and other establishments to post calorie counts on their menus. The businesses will now have until December 1st of 2016, a year longer than the FDA initially proposed. The new move comes amid persistent pressure on the agency from various corners of the food industry to delay enforcement of the rules. The FBI said that since FDA, not the FBI.
Oh, no comment.
That food is criminal. The FDA said that since February, it has received numerous requests for postponement, including from groups such as the Food Marketing Institute, the National Association of Theater Owners, the American Beverage Association, and the Publix supermarkets. The agency said industry officials cited the need to develop software and other systems to help create accurate nutrition labeling, as well as the time and effort involved in installing menu boards and training staff about the new requirements. This spring, dozens of lawmakers, including some staunch supporters of menu labeling, urged the agency to push back enforcement of the new regulations. Last November, the FDA issued long-anticipated rules that would require most chain restaurants, vending machines, grocery stores, coffee shops, and other places that sell food and drinks directly to consumers to display detailed calorie information on their menus. The rules, which the agency first proposed in 2011, were included in the little notice provision in President Obama's landmark healthcare law. The legislation directed regulators to fashion rules requiring food establishments to post calorie information, but exactly which retailers would be subject to the law has been the subject of much lobbying, debate, and delay. Public health experts said the new rules are long overdue and that the postponement will allow the food industry to continue lobbying to weaken them.
How do we change the world? Any idea?
No.
Okay. Well,
I have some ideas, but maybe they should.
Well, according to Deepak Chopra, by taking a stand for compassion, one person at a time. Join Deepak Chopra, excuse me, folks. Gabrielle Bernstein, Ismail Karla, and more than 500,000 people from nearly every country in the world as they come together online on Saturday with one common intention: to turn around the rising tide of disconnection in the world and through renewed empathy and love, reconnect to what truly matters. Deepak Chopra, Trevor Hall, and Gabrielle Bernstein are hosting the world's largest synchronized meditation on July 11th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You're not only invited to join for free, they're also making it super simple to host your own meditation event. Hundreds of groups will gather in nearly every country in the world to meditate over one common intention: compassion. For more information, go to chopracentermeditation.com/GM.
And also in other news, we learned this morning that actor Omar Sharif, best known for his roles in classic films Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago, has died at age 83. Egypt-born Sharif won 2 Golden Globe Awards and an Oscar nomination for his role as Sharif Ali in David Lean's 1962 epic Lawrence of Arabia. He won a further Golden Globe 3 years later for Dr. Zhivago. Earlier this year, his agent confirmed that he had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. He died in a hospital in Cairo of a heart attack. I loved both of those movies. I saw them both when I was young.
Coming up next, folks, is the Regional News. We'll be right back.
SSS Multimedia is sending you smoke signals, providing their clients with the ultimate communication and multimedia marketing, distribution, production, and web-based services. They feature high-def video equipment and quality audio sound. SSS is your multimedia source, from graphics for business cards to television production, radio, live sound, and everything in between. SSS is sending you smoke signals. Get your message out with SSS Multimedia. For more information, call 707-701-6416 or email info@sssmultimedia.com.
And we're back with our regional news. Several California lawmakers and community assistance groups are calling on Governor Jerry Brown to repay more than $331 million in funds intended to help homeowners struggling with foreclosures that the state siphoned off to help deal with its budget crisis. A Sacramento County judge found that the governor and state legislature unlawfully diverted most of the fund that was part of a $25 billion settlement between 5 major banks in nearly every state in 2012. Brown's attorneys argued that the state had the discretion to use the money in the state budget, but the judge sided with the community assistance groups in ruling that the money should be used to help California homeowners affected by the mortgage crisis. The ruling by Sacramento County Superior Court Judge Timothy Frawley was issued last month, but it has not been finalized. The Democratic governor hasn't decided if he will appeal, and his finance department spokesman. According to his finance department spokesman, groups say that the money should have been distributed to an estimated 800,000 homeowners affected by the foreclosure crisis. The homeowners would have used the money for things such as helping get loan modifications, restoring credit scores, buying new homes, or paying for moving. Instead, Brown and the state legislature, as they struggled to balance California's budget, spent the lion's share of California's $410.6 million mortgage settlement fund to offset state expenses for housing bond debt service, as well as to support the Department of Justice, overseen by California Attorney General Kamala Harris, and the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, which investigates housing discrimination. State budget documents called the money discretionary funds.
Yeah, whatever.
Quote, discretionary funds.
Whose discretion?
I'm going to stay away from that one. A moth that can cause significant harm to vineyards was discovered in a trap on June 24th in Calistoga, sorry about that, folks, in Napa County. Agricultural Commissioner Greg Clark warned farmers to be on the outlook of the western grape leaf skeletonizer, especially as they transport equipment and grapes into the county. The moth was found in a pheromone-baited trap, which can attract moths in a 1.5-mile radius. This is a destructive and serious pest, Clark said in a statement. All larval life stages are voracious feeders that cause extensive damage to grape leaves, including partial or complete defoliation of grapevines. Excessive feeding can damage fruit and lead to secondary fungal damage and rot of grape clusters. Clark's office has deployed an additional 25 traps within a mile radius of the original discovery on Tubbs Lane. The moth, native to Arizona and New Mexico, was last found in Napa County in 2007.
Law enforcement officers from at least 4 agencies swooped onto American Indian land occupied by 2 tribes in Modoc County on Wednesday, seizing at least 12,000 marijuana plants and more than 100 pounds of processed marijuana. Benjamin Wagner, the U.S. Attorney in the Sacramento-based Eastern District of California, which includes Modoc County, emphasized that other than contraband marijuana and items of evidentiary value, no tribal property was seized and no federal charges are pending. Warrants signed Tuesday by a U.S. magistrate judge authorized federal agents to search 2 large-scale marijuana cultivation facilities located on federally recognized tribal lands at the Alturas Indian Rancheria and the XL Ranch in Modoc County. The county forms in the northeast corner of California, with Oregon on the north and Nevada on the east. A lengthy affidavit filed in support of the warrants quotes 2 informants as telling sheriff deputies that the 2 manufacturing sites apparently operated jointly with the owners of a large cigarette maker in Canada. In addition, according to the affidavit, a member of the Alturas tribe has told the county supervisors that the marijuana manufacturing venture is financed by Jerry Montour, the top officer and controlling shareholder in the Canadian business. The 2 informants said that they saw Montour earlier this year on Alturas Indian Rancheria in an area between the heavily guarded building housing the pot-growing enterprise and the tribe's Desert Rose Casino. Wagner said he departed from his policy to decline comment on continuing investigations that have not yet resulted in criminal charges because the grows in question have received substantial attention in Modoc County, as has the U.S. Department of Justice guidance relating to marijuana cultivation on tribal lands. American Indian territories are sovereign nations with separate governments and are generally outside the province of federal, state, and local authorities. The volume of marijuana that the XL facility alone was capable of producing, estimated at approximately 40,000 to 60,000 plants, far exceeds any prior known commercial marijuana grow operation anywhere within the 34-county Eastern District. According to tribal representatives, all of the marijuana cultivated at both facilities was intended to be distributed off tribal lands at various unidentified locations. He said his office consulted with representatives of both tribes on multiple occasions before Wednesday's raids and reminded them that cultivation of marijuana is illegal under federal law. Wagner said his office expressed to them the concern that large-scale commercial grows on tribal lands have the potential to introduce controlled substance derived from the plants in a manner that violates federal law and is not consistent with California Compassionate Use Act. It undermines locally enacted marijuana regulations. According to reports in Canadian newspapers and business publications, Montour's company, Grand River Enterprises, is a billion-dollar manufacturer of tobacco products that are distributed in several countries, including wide distribution on tribal lands throughout the U.S. Montour and his father, Peter, were 2 of the 3 founding partners. The company is the largest private employer on the Ontario Six Nations, the most populous native reserve in Canada, and the only location of all 6 Iroquois nations. Jerry Montour, a 45-year-old Mohawk, lives in Hamilton, a port city that wraps around the westernmost shore of Lake Ontario.
San Francisco is among the priciest places to park in the country, and now the cost to park is about to get a tad more expensive. The city's Municipal Transportation Agency, commonly known as MTA, is adding a parking meter surcharge of 27 cents to those who pay with credit card or by phone. SFMTA spokesperson Paul Rose told CBS that when the city first started adding the new meters with credit card functions 5 years ago, the surcharge was covered by a federal grant. The grant ended in 2013, and Rose says the surcharge is necessary to cover costs for meter upgrades. These additional costs would reduce the SFMTA operating budget by $47.7 million over the next 9 years. Rose told SF Gate the new surcharge will be introduced in 30 days. Most SF meter rates range between $2 and $3.50 per hour for cars. The city is piloting demand-responsive pricing in SF Park pilot areas where rates incrementally adjust every 6 to 8 weeks based on demand and may range from 25 cents to $6 per hour. The pay-by-phone service provider currently adds a 45-cent fee per transaction to cover cost. When the new surcharge is introduced, this fee will drop to 27 cents. While locals say 27 cents isn't a significant amount of money, they're irritated by the new surcharge. And so would I be.
An ASA-sponsored bill to prevent medical cannabis patients from being denied life-saving organ transplants is on the desk of California Governor Jerry Brown, awaiting his signature. On June 22nd, the California Senate approved AB 258, the Medical Cannabis Organ Transplant Act, to prohibit discrimination against medical cannabis patients. AB 258 passed the Senate by a vote of 33 to 1 after 200 patients and advocates visited state Senate offices in support of it as part of ASA's California Citizen Lobby Day. The bill, sponsored by Assembly member Mark Levine, Democrat out of San Rafael, passed the state assembly on April 30th by a vote of 64 to 12. Medical cannabis patients in California are routinely removed from the organ transplant waiting list if they test positive for cannabis use, even when that use was recommended by their doctor. Many transplant centers define all cannabis use as drug use and drug abuse, making qualified patients ineligible for transplants. Those policies have cost several Californians their lives. Norman Smith, who had liver cancer, died in 2012 after Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles denied him a transplant because of the cannabis use his oncologist had recommended. Tony Trujillo was denied a life-saving kidney transplant at Cedars-Sinai in 2012 because her medical cannabis use was also classified as substance abuse. Richard Hawthorne was denied a liver transplant by Stanford Medical School last year despite a friend offering to be a donor. And unlike many other cannabis states, California does not protect patients from civil liabilities or discrimination based on their legal medical cannabis use. California patients face pervasive discrimination in employment, housing, parental rights, and access to health care.
Genevieve was denied a liver transplant by Stanford also because of that.
Executives representing Sonoma County's multi-billion-dollar wine industry weighed in for the first time publicly Wednesday on the backlash surrounding winery development in some of the county's prime grape growing regions. Complaints driven by a slate of hotly contested winery proposals over the past year, from celebrity chef Guy Fieri's bid to build an Italian-style winery in West Santa Rosa, to Ken and Diane Wilson's plan to develop a new winery on a 40-acre vineyard off Dry Creek Road, have grown more pronounced. Rural residents say wineries that double as event centers are drawing unruly crowds, traffic, and noise to their bucolic neighborhoods, threatening the public safety and their quality of life. High-powered wine industry officials and boutique winery owners countered these claims Wednesday at the county's Permit and Resource Management Department during a packed 2-hour meeting led by Dennis Wick, the department's director. Neighborhood groups are complaining about what they call a proliferation of wineries and unauthorized events on narrow county roads. At one point during the meeting, former county supervisor Ernie Carpenter, who was seated in the audience, appeared outraged as he voiced his concerns about the impact of wineries on rural neighborhoods. Balletto and others acknowledged heated neighborhood concerns about the county's 439 wineries and the events they hold. He said, however, that reaching consumers by participating in wine industry events, hosting special gatherings, and offering small wine release parties and tasting rooms is increasingly important for Sonoma County's vintners. Instead of unfairly penalizing wineries by restricting their participation in events, industry representatives called on county supervisors and planning officials to set clear definitions on events and guidelines about how they are approved. Bledsoe and Jackson are participating in a 21-member working group charged with crafting proposed regulations for the unincorporated area that could see new standards for events at wineries, including how many should be allowed per year and what type, from weddings to wine pairing dinners and industry events such as barrel tasting weekend. Wick, who is leading the effort, is said to draft final recommendations for the Board of Supervisors by March. The advisory process, set up to inform county planners and supervisors, is launching amid an escalating debate over winery development in the county, focused especially on new and expanding sites that seek to double as event centers. The outcome, including potentially higher limits and more strict enforcement for wineries, is seen as having high stakes for the region's signature industry.
Fueled by skyrocketing tourism and the region's financial recovery since the recession, Sonoma County's service industry has become a powerful force in the local economy. The restaurant sector has far outpaced the overall economy in job growth and now employs 1 of every 10 workers, according to state employment data. There is also more restaurants popping up every year, and the number of food and drink establishments is up 10% in the past 5 years. And this year's Sonoma County Restaurant Week generated $3.35 million in economic activity, a 5-year high. Triggered by what some managers and chefs say is a shortage of service industry workers, other Sonoma County restaurants are also upping wages to attract and retain skilled employees. Many are also seeking more workers to keep pace with increased business. Some restaurants in Sonoma County already pay $15 per hour or more to their cooks, but it can take years to reach that pay level. Dishwashers and prep cooks on average earn less. Hourly pay for dishwashers in 2014 was between $9.21 and $9.70 per hour, according to the State Employment Development Department. Cooks ranging from prep cooks to line cooks earned $11.07 per hour on the lower end of the spectrum to $14.06 on the high end, according to state data. Other restaurant executives say there are other meaningful ways to create a stable workforce, including offering opportunities to move